So Elemental is the latest animated film from Pixar, and it's the type of Pixar film that I wish they would keep making more of. I feel like I say that every time there's a great Pixar film, but it's like it's one of those things that you kind of got to like reinstate to let the studio know it's like, no, I like this stuff. Keep doing more of this, and that's specifically why I love Elemental, because it gives the two things that I love. It has the two things that I love about Pixar films, which is that they can introduce like worlds that are not as, showcased in other animated films, and also tap into either a particular genre or a particular emotion that you don't feel as much in other animated films. So in the same way that, a lot of their animation was very like trailblazing, the thematic elements that are trailblazing are also more interesting. And on that level, like the high bar of like Pixar films for me is stuff like Turning Red, I actually really loved, and then stuff like Inside Out, and and Up and Wall-E, I love those as well. But like somewhere like in between the and then of course like Cars obviously is on the lower front, it's Cars and Brave, and Elemental exists kind of like just like a notch below like the top tier of Pixar. Like it's not quite there, but it's like you can see aspects of it that come close to what I love about Pixar. So based on like what a lot of people have been seeing with this film, they think it's mostly just going to be like an Element version of Zootopia, where it's this city where all these different types of characters congregate, and there's there's an overlapping nature about the questioning of the diversity within that city and how the city comes together while still appreciating all the wonder of it. That much is true on a visual level. This is like the one thing I love the most about Elemental, is that it doesn't slow itself down to try to like make like a more concrete world. Like Zootopia was fun, but my biggest criticism of Zootopia would be that there's a whole lot of moments where they're just like, oh, we got to slow down, we got to explain how this world works, and we got to take in this side so you understand how all this works. And the way that they just and they basically they turn it into like a cop story, so it's a little bit more of a tactile plot. And within Elemental, I love how it's mostly a story about legacy. It's between like legacy, acceptance, and honesty, and it doesn't slow down for that. Like they don't waste time explaining like all the elements came together and they built this city. We get that much from like the intro, which sets up like this immigration story for this fire family called the Lumens, who have come to Element City, where apparently fire people are not as well regarded in a world that occupies without cloud people, water people, and plant people. And the fire people are not as well regarded, but the Lumens do their best to kind of like make their own way. And they set up this cute little shop, which has its own nice little little bits of like creativity here. Like they obviously, when they have fire, they can take sand and they can form glass, and they can like break down logs and make these neat little designs out of like coal and glass. So all these cool little aspects that you want to take advantage of. But at the core of the story is their daughter Ember, voiced by Leah Lewis. And the thing with Ember is that she's readying herself to take over her dad's business. He's getting older, he's going to retire, but at the same time she's not really used to the job. She can't handle customers, she's not that great at it, and she doesn't actually enjoy it. So naturally that you can see like once like her first temper tantrum happens and like she literally explodes, you can tell like this is going to be her hurdle to conquer. And of course at the same time there's a more immediate problem, which is that there's a leak that they have in their basement, and the city might shut them down because water is seeping into an area where it apparently shouldn't. Because it's weird, like the fire people live in like this area that has like abandoned, what look like abandoned dams, or just like like little, not quite like dams. What am I saying? Like little areas like where water would pass through. Like it's a different part of the city that has kind of like changed over time. So there's a little bit of a plot here about how like there's an area of water that needs to be patched up and how there's a bureaucracy standing in the way of that. But thankfully, it's not just like, because the moment that happened, like, okay, is this just going to be like the standard, like, you know, Ember's going to have to work with someone, and she's going to have to, learn that, water and fire can mix. And thankfully, it's not just like that straightforward cop film, because, like Zootopia, because the thing is, this film is actually a romantic drama. And I don't mean romantic comedy, because there isn't a lot of like a lot of rom-com stuff per se between the two leads here, because during the whole leak in the basement, it's discovered by Wade Ripple, who's played by Mamoto Athie, and I love how like they establish like the different cultures of these two characters, and like their different personalities that are formed around it. Like Ember's fire-based people are very much about being spirited and feisty, whereas Wade's water people are all about kind of like wearing your emotions on your sleeve and kind of embracing sadness. Like they're all about tears. Like they even have like a game about how sad you can be, which is pretty cute. And from there, it's mostly just like on a bigger level, yeah, it's about like saving the block, and that story kind of bookends this whole movie. But at its core, it's mostly just about the relationship between Ember and Wade. And despite like he's made of water, she's made of fire, they do come together and make steam. I'm trying to avoid that pun about how like their romance is steamy, because it's like, for one, it's not on like a figurative level, but it's barely even that on like the literal level. It's one of those films where it's just like you kind of have to be on board for wanting to see these two characters get together and do come to terms with themselves about what they want out of just like living up to like the legacy of their family, which isn't like too overbearing, because like I mean between like Ember and Wade's families, they don't seem like they're like, I mean there's aspects of that where like you're expecting, okay, where's like they're gonna be like the racial allegory here, where like they're gonna be like like looking down on each other, and there is aspects of that. In particular, Ember's father, Bernie, voiced by Ronnie Del Carmen, really hates water people. He's all about like, I can't stand them. I can't have them. And the weird thing is like I love the design of Bernie, because they give him such a wide face and such a big mouth that it made me think of the flame from Howl's Moving Castle. I think his name was Calcifer. So it's basically like, what if Calcifer got married and had kids and went off to the city to live out his dream? And yeah, like there's a whole bunch of aspects where I love, where you just get to appreciate this world on a visual level, and it doesn't have to explain itself too much. Like from the very first few scenes, like we don't need like a core explanation of like how the transportation works. We can kind of figure that out just by watching it, and like how they reveal it. There's some cute stuff here, like how the cloud people all travel around in like balloons and blimps, and like they'll deflate if like there aren't more passengers who get off at the next stop. So there's cute little aspects like that, and I love that there's very atmospheric moments where you get to kind of appreciate the world alongside the characters. Like I love how Ember kind of tries to find all the fun stuff that she can do to kind of not so much impress Wade, but just kind of like say like, hey, there's some more neat stuff I can do besides burn stuff. Like I love how at one point she finds that if she touches like crystals, her flame can adopt that color. There's a great sequence where they're hanging out at the beach trying to find some evidence, and of course, since Ember's in the sand, she was like, oh, I can make glass, and I can form neat little glass sculptures out of this. And then there's funny aspects with Wade being very fluid. There's all kinds of fun stuff you can do with him. I will say that I do like how like this film can kind of have like some fun with its environment as well, while at the same time poking fun at it. Like there are designs that make sense within like I love the design of Wade's family home, which is just a swimming pool. It's like it's not even like, oh, here's like a little pool section of the apartment. The whole apartment, it's just a big swimming pool. Which is cute because like they're all liquid. That it doesn't really there's no need for a floor. In fact, if they did have a floor, they'd probably just fall out of there. So little attention to details like that, but also like just being able to poke fun at it. Like at one point, they want to break into this one place, and it's held back by a chain link fence. So naturally, Wade, being made of water, just goes straight through the fence, and actually no, like yeah, he does go straight through the fence, and Ember just walks right on through and just burns the fence. And while they do that, there's this passing comment like, "Why do we even have this?" Like, I don't know. I guess it keeps the plant people out since they can't change their form. And this is the type of film where it's like, it's not like I said, it's very much a romantic drama, because it's not as heavy on comedy. Like there are some funny moments, and there are some great world building moments that are very cute. That I actually smiled at quite a bit. But the bulk of this film is mostly just taking in like the beauty and wonder of both the relationship and the different aspects of this world. Like there's one particular beautiful sequence where Wade leads Ember on an underwater voyage within a bubble, so that she still has like oxygen for her fire, and it's just gorgeous. Just like every aspect of Element City, like you feel like they could just like fall back on making it very either grimy or sterile, or just make it like a typical city where they don't have to find all that much clever stuff to do with these different forms of people that all congregate together. But they actually do. There's some great aspects. Like I love the fact that how there's a train that comes by, and it leaves like a wake of water. I love that the Cloud people have their own like kind of like Quidditch basketball type thing that they have going on, which is pretty neat. It's just all the little eccentricities that the film never slows down to fully explain. There are moments where we do get a bit of the backstory. We do learn a little bit more of Ember's culture and why it's important to her and why it's important to Bernie. And that's the type of backstory that's good enough, where it's like, okay, you're not bogging us down in this, and the history that's being revealed here makes sense, and it plays a bigger role into feeling that you have to live up to this legacy. And yeah, there's a lot of quiet moments that are just kind of sweet to take in with this film. And honestly, after seeing an animated film like Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which was amazing, but it was very, very fast paced and very frantic, and every scene is like way too quick and dazzling that like the next time I watch it at home, I'm probably going to be like pausing it a bunch of times. But after all that, coming to something like Elemental is like a perfect chaser, because even though there is a chase as the inciting incident, and there is like a big daring save the block moment where they fear that the neighborhood will be flooded, and there's a race against time, and there's like a dramatic reveal where it seems like a character has died, but there are just like there are aspects of this film where it's just nice to just lay back and just let this world kind of come into being and just like play out the way that it is. So yeah, just on a level of like world building, it's beautiful. Seeing the relationship develop, which it proceeds a little bit too quickly, and I feel like the families are almost a bit too understanding, where like you almost kind of want to have like pardon the pun here, but like a little bit more spark between like the conflict of being about feeling conflicted about this fire and water person getting together. But over time, you kind of actually do feel for them, which at first, like, I wasn't sure if I was going to be liking Wade, because it felt like he was just kind of going to be this one note satiric, like this one note like sad sack who like he's funny, but he's only funny when he's crying most of the time. But he actually does kind of win you over a little bit when he does share his creativity with Ember, and you watch how they interact and just form a genuine chemistry that it was pretty sweet. So I can definitely tell, like, for the fact that this film is trying to swing more towards, like, you do not see many animated family films that want to have like more of a romantic drama angle to it, as opposed to like a rom-com element. But that's kind of what I want out of Pixar. I want them to test their boundaries and go places that other animated films don't. And this film kind of does. It doesn't pave as much ground as it could with, like stuff like Inside Out and Turning Red have definitely like set the bar high there. But this is still like a very pleasant, very like solid Pixar film with just like great world building. It's amazing to look at. Every scene is like kind of bursting with color and all these little details that make up the city, where it doesn't just feel like, okay, it looks just like New York City except there's elemental people. No, it actually feels like a city built for these different types of creatures, and watching how they all interact, and rarely having a moment where they just say like, oh, here, like, look at this clever idea we had, isn't that cute? It just kind of proceeds quickly. It's just like, there's a little bit, okay, look at this neat little thing we did here, but we got to get back to the story here. We got to keep it going. And I feel like Elemental really kind of delivers on that front. So yeah, like going back to what I said, like the best way to look at this film is like, it's a great chaser for Across the Spider-Verse. If you don't want an animated film that's as frantic and that's actually has a lot of charm and heart to it, and actually slows down to let you appreciate a little bit of like the beauty in it, yeah, Elemental is actually a lot of fun.